Okay, today we're going to be speaking about Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Very, very simple message in this chapter, you know, but also very, very creatively done, you know. So this is going to be Ecclesiastes chapter 12, the illustrated version. Okay, let's see if we can get this working. Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Very simple but very good and creative message that Solomon brought forth to us in this chapter. And this is going to be the illustrated version. Ecclesiastes 12:1, it says, "Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them." You know, when we're young, we oftentimes feel like Superman. You know, as if we're invincible. Nothing can come up against us. You know, but truly, even as Solomon is admonishing the youth, we should remember our Creator in the days of our youth, before the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh. You know, when you don't have pleasure in the days anymore. You know, the time to really start seeking them is while you have your youth. You know, and essentially that's what this whole chapter is about. It's about, hey, you know, be wise. Seek Yah while you have youth on your side. Don't wait until you're in misery. Don't wait until you're old and decrepit, you know, to start seeking them. Seek them now while youth is on your side, and where, you know, you can be of use to them. You know, because from here on, you know, Solomon begins to speak about becoming old, and essentially this is a picture. Essentially, this is a picture of what he's describing. He's describing the old man that kind of looks something like this. So, you know, I want you to take a snapshot of this picture in your mind as we proceed through the following verses and see how they align with this picture, because they align pretty good. In Ecclesiastes 12, verses 2 and 3, it says, "While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few. And those that look out of the windows be darkened." You know, now what he's actually speaking of, he says, while the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened. He's speaking, of course, about the eyesight. And then he says, nor the clouds return after the rain. What is he talking about, the clouds return after the rain? And what he's talking about is these things right here, the bags under the eyes. You know, normally the wells of the eyes swell up, you know, when one is crying, i.e. the rain. You know, but oftentimes when we get older, you know, they swell up even without the rain. Even after the rain is come and gone, they just stay swollen. You know, and you know that's not too cool. And then it says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble. And what it's speaking about there is the hands and the arms. You know, they're the keepers of the house. You know, and as you get older, you know, your hands and your arms, they may get a little shaky, begin to tremble. And the strong men shall bow themselves, and this is kind of what it was speaking about, where it's the strong man bowing themselves, you know, they kind of, you know, get a little hunched over, start bowing. And the grinders cease because they are few. And of course, that's speaking to the teeth. You know, can't chew on some of the stuff you used to chew on. And verse 4, Ecclesiastes 12:4 says, "And the doors shall be shut in the streets, and when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low." The doors shall be shut in the streets. And here is speaking about, you know, the hearing. You know, you have old guys, you know, they be straining to hear. And then, you know, some of them, with modern day technology, they get them a hearing aid, you know. See, and I like this new improved version, you know. It has the hearing aid where you can turn on the TV, or turn off the wife. Or just turn everything off, you know. I don't want to hear nothing right now. You know, this is one of those new selective hearing aids for men, you know. Ecclesiastes 12:5. "Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fear shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish." You know, it's strange as you get older. Sometimes you may not have been afraid of heights, but as you get older, then next thing you know, you're afraid of heights. Like, where'd this come from? You know, and it speaks of, and fear shall be in the way. You know, you start becoming even more fearful of things, and they start keeping you from doing stuff. And it speaks of the almond tree shall flourish. Now, that's not the greatest translation right there. You know, speaking of the almond tree shall flourish. The almond tree speaks of actually the gray hairs. This is a picture of an almond tree. And as you can see, you know, it kind of looks like a head full of gray hair. Now, this word flourish is actually naus in Hebrew, number 5006, and it's a verb meaning to revile. It comes from Newt's number 5132, meaning to fly away. And it's speaking about when, as the leaves fly away from off the tree, you know, in which the head of the tree, the almond tree, looks like a full head of gray hair. When it begins to fly away, then, you know, it becomes, you know, bald in spots. You know, so that's what it's speaking of. It's speaking of one losing the hair. Ecclesiastes 12:5. "Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and the fear shall be in the way." I just did 5 minutes. Oh, we're doing the latter part of 5, which "and the almond tree shall flourish." Then it goes on to say, "And the grasshopper shall be a burden." Speaking of, you know, not as strong as you used to be. You can't hardly lift anything. You know, speaking to the weight of the grasshopper, you know, even the lightest things you're having trouble with. "And desire shall fail, because man goeth to his long home, and the mourners go about the streets." You know, and his desire shall fail. You know, I found this little cartoon that kind of speaks to this real well. His wife says, "I call him the auction man. His hair is going, his teeth are going, his sex drive has gone." And that's what it's speaking to concerning the desires shall fail. In verse 6 of Ecclesiastes 12, it says, "Or ever the silver cord be loosed." Now, most people consider the silver cord to be the spinal cord. You know, and when it gets loosed again, you know, the person begins to bow over. It's one way of looking at it. It goes on to say, "Or the golden bowl be broken," which speaks to the head. You know, so it's speaking about you know, mental issues, the golden bowl being broken, or the pitcher be broken at the fountain. Now we're talking about kidney issues. You know, for the pitcher to be broken at the fountain, that means the pitcher can't hold anything. Yeah, and we found this little illustration to exemplify this. You know, this is our old guy with his wife, and you know, she says, "This is the third time you've gone to the bathroom tonight. Are you seeing another woman in there?" You know, you start getting up and going to the bathroom more often, you know, throughout the night. And then it speaks of the wheel broken at the cistern. In other words, you know, the cistern is like the well. And if the well is broken, then that means you can't put the bucket down there to retrieve water and get the water, bring the water up. So as a result, you start retaining fluids. And here we have a little illustration to exemplify that. As your test revealed that you are retaining fluids, you know, and of course, you know, he didn't even want to tell him that because he's big as a water balloon. You know, and it's something else that, you know, transpires as one gets older that can transpire. Doesn't have to happen. It just oftentimes does. And verse 13, I believe we're at. No, 7. It's verse 7, and the dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to Elohim who gave it. And we know what that's pertaining to. You know, that's pertaining to death. You know, and actually, you know, when one's kidneys shut down, death is imminent. You know, it's usually, you know, right around the corner. You know, so this is a picture of one aging, or one that has aged, that has become very old. And so the admonition is for the youth who are strong and vibrant to seek Elohim during those times, because these things will distract you from seeking him in the latter ages. When you become older, you know, these things will become a great distraction to you seeking him out. And if you wait until then, you know, you may not find him. You know, so the admonition and wisdom of Solomon is teaching us that we ought to seek him while we're young. You know, and I think that's some great advice. Start now, even today, no matter how old you are. He goes on to say in verse 8, vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. All is vanity. And truly it is. Because without Yah, none of this stuff amounts to a hill of beans. He is the end all and the be all. You know, I read a quote earlier today. I'm trying to remember how it goes. It was pretty good. It said something to the effect that people were created to be loved, and things were created to be used. And this is the error of men's ways, for they begin to love the things and use the people. You know, and that's a great error to make. There's no need in falling in love with things, because they're going to come and they're going to go. And when they made one, they usually made an assembly line full of them. You know, you can always get more things. You can't get people back. Once a person is gone, they're gone. Each one is unique in and of themselves. You can't get another mama. You can't get another dad. You can't get another sister so-and-so or brother so-and-so. They're unique in their being. There's none other like them. You can't get another one of them. You can always get more things, more stuff. So here it is. Solomon is admonishing us that all this stuff is vanity. Keep your eye on the prize, on the things that's important. In verses 9 through 11, he says, and moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yea, he gave good heed and sought out and set in order many proverbs. The preacher sought to find out acceptable words, and that which was written was upright, even words of truth. The words of the wise are as goads, and as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies, which are given from one shepherd. You know, and we do well to remember that it is all given of one shepherd, even our Messiah, Yahushua. And his words are as goads. They're to direct our paths. The goad was what was used to direct the paths of the cattle when the shepherd was trying to steer them in a certain direction. You know, if one would get out of line, they would take the goad and they would goad them. And usually there was a nail or something at the end of the goad, something that would prick them, you know, to get their attention so that they'd get back in line. You know, David in some of his songs, you know, depicted that that's the way that Yah taught him, you know, by goading him. Get out the way, do a little something to get your attention. Like, hey, get back in the way. Get back in the way. You know, that's where we want to stay. We want to stay in the way that leadeth unto everlasting life. We want to stay in that way. See, we have to understand that all the words of truth come from one shepherd, even our Messiah, Yahushua. And those words of truth don't start with the book of Matthew or Matthew. It starts with Genesis. And it goes on through Revelation 22. All the word of Elohim is good for reproof. And those are our goals. Those are the things that are to get our attention and prompt us to get back in line, to get back in the way, to get back, you know, with the flock of Elohim. And we do well to remember that. In verse 12 of Ecclesiastes 12, it says, and further, by these, my son, be admonished. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. And you have people who dedicate their lives to studying everything but the right thing. You know, they want to read every book but the book. There's probably innumerable numbers of books that's, you know, as many as the sands of the sea that's been written since the beginning of time. But there's only one that matters. You know, and you can study all those other books, you know, until you're blue in the face. But there's one book, i.e. the word of Elohim, that matters, that will get you on that path that leadeth unto life. And that's the book that you need. That's the book that you need to read. And it's I find it, I don't want to, lack of a better term, I find it funny that, you know, I run into a lot of avid readers, and they read all kind of stuff, but they've never read the word. You know, and then they can talk about how many books they've read, you know, and how they read a book every couple months and things of that nature. But they never read the word, you know, from start to finish. You know, you can study until your flesh is weary. You know, but there's really only one book that matters, and that's the word of Elohim. So we ought to keep that in mind. In verses 13 and 14, Ecclesiastes 12, Solomon gives us the conclusion of the matter. He says, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Elohim and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For Elohim shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So this goes back again to the one book that matters. You can study everything else, you know, and you can be smart as a whip, so to speak. And, you know, you can excel by the world's standards and receive all their accolades. But the conclusion of the whole matter is that if you don't fear Elohim and keep his commandments, then you're not truly doing his duty. You're not truly doing your duty, I should say. Your duty unto him. And know for a certainty that Elohim shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. You know, I try to tell people all the time, you know, they look at things that transpire in the world and people who do the things, wicked things in the world, and they look and say, well, hey, you know, how come nothing happening to them? Or, hey, you know, it seems like they doing real well. You know, and I try to point out to them that, you know, you just on the other side of the street, you know, looking over, and the grass, you know, seems to look greener. But trust me, it isn't, because the El that we serve is sovereign. And he sees all. And no one's getting away with anything. You know, so, you know, it's like when you hear these stories about, you know, an old man, you know, getting beat up and robbed or something. And as sad as that may be, you know, and as sad as it may sound, we don't know what that old man used to do in his youth. See, and when Yah brings his justice, it's not always immediate. You know, as a matter of fact, when you look in Scripture, you see oftentimes it isn't immediate. Oftentimes it's years down the line. You know, and when things happen, you know, we always think of the immediate. You know, hey, you know, this guy, you know, he go to church every week and he does this, that, and the other, and he seemed to be an upstanding guy. Yeah, but who was he before then? I mean, that's great that he's doing that now. You know, but the El that we serve, he's the judge of all. And as Solomon is saying, he'll bring every work into judgment with every secret thing. You know, and just may be that what's happening today was for something that happened years ago. We don't know. And that's why we're not the judge. He's the judge. He knows. You know, and he is a just El, so we can know that he judged righteously. And trust in that. You know, and a lot of people don't take that into consideration, but Yah, he does bring every work into judgment. Whether it's in this lifetime or the lifetime to come. Nobody's getting away with anything. That was the last verse?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me back up. That picture's better than right? Well, I know that was a short lesson, but I guess that's all I have for you for today. But I pray that you enjoyed the little illustration of Ecclesiastes 12.